All right, so what is directory synchronization services? Basically, it synchronizes on-premise Active Directory with Office 365. It comes standard with SQL 2008 R2 Express Edition, and it's just designed to be put in place and let it sync. Never touch it unless there's a problem. What does it do? At its most basic level, it enables coexistence. It enables on-site resources to work with cloud resources. It does a lot of other things, as you can see from this long list. I don't think it's necessary for most people to know this, but the big thing to remember is that if they have local resources that need to be utilized with the cloud, it is required. They have to have it. There's no other way.
You can download this, or you have to buy SQL 2008 R2?
No, you can download it. You can get it from
runs
Microsoft.
Express, so that's
It's
great.
just bundled in there.
Can you give us an example of the types of things that you would need to code that would require that coexistence? I mean, you're saying, you know, if I've got resources on premise
Okay.
that need to talk to the cloud, what would that be?
Okay, so applications would be one of them. If you have active, like Exchange Online will, this is going to get kind of technical, so bear with me a second. So if you have like applications that integrate with Exchange through like MAPI connections,
Okay.
it pulls information from Exchange and it pulls information from Active Directory. So in that instance, you would have to have it.
So if I had a line of business application that somehow talked to my Exchange server to send emails directly out of that or whatever, this would require...
Well, say it pulled Active Directory user information, and then utilized Exchange to pull information like calendars and such. Like say if Autotask was fully integrated with our Exchange, okay, it would pull from Active Directory for our users, and then it would pull from Exchange for resource mailboxes, for resource calendars, et cetera, et cetera. That would require that Active Directory be synced with the cloud services.
Okay.
You got to think of it like it basically takes like the thing that people are scared about, which is having a cloud and having local resources, having two separate areas to manage, and it makes them one.
Right.
So your global address list, if they want like a centralized global address list that never changes, so if they want to hide a user in Active Directory, it'll sync it up. You know, if they want to manage Active Directory and they don't want to manage Exchange Online except for password management, that would be another example. John, is there anything else you can think of off the top of your head?
Basically for expandability too. You know, if you take a company like Whisk, and you know they say during Christmas we're going to have 10 times the amount of business than we do the rest of the year because more of their clients have, you know, need more of their services. You know, so let's say they had 1,000 users for Christmas, and then they need to retract back to 500 users. You know, if you do that on site, you know, you could need to add 3-4 Exchange servers in a farm or, you know, a cluster. To where with Office 365, you can have a single on-site Exchange server and use 365 as your farm and cluster, so you can expand it and contract it based on how many users.
And if
you
those
have
500
available.
users are only there for 28 days, then they're free.
Technically, yes. So requirements for the directory synchronization services, it has to be on a computer joined to Active Directory. It cannot be a domain controller. It must be able to commute with any and all domain controllers forest-wide. It has to be Windows Server 2008. It cannot, as of right now, by the end of the year they'll change this, but as of right now it cannot be a 64-bit platform. I know that's retarded, but by the end of the year they're going to change that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's part of my confusion, probably what I knew.
Sure.
Some of the customers need servers.
Uh-huh.
Can those servers be on Infinity's cloud?
Well, I don't understand the question.
Just
All the premise server requirements could be virtual servers sitting in our cloud.
Yes, as long as they have access, so as long as there's...
The reason I asked
You know-
is Sally Lindbergh, we ixnayed the
Yeah.
Office 365 because those two environments we were managing.
Yeah, but even for them, for what they're talking about, we'll talk about this separate, but that might require single
Okay.
sign-on, which would then blow it out more than what they want.
Which is fine, there's
Yeah.
probably more reason, I'm just saying,
It doesn't matter where it's geographically located or physically located, Ryland, as long as there's communication. So they could have a server in their office, they could have a server in our community cloud, they could have a server in the public cloud, they could have a server in the private cloud, right? As long as there's a way for them to all communicate back and forth, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, in this scenario, when they're talking about on-premise server, they're really just talking not Office 365.
Can you just clarify then? If we have the federated ID server here, and that goes down, nobody can get email.
Nobody can authenticate to log in to get email, correct? It's still happening.
Well, hold on, if that's the case, then how can you go work from home? Because you can't access this server, you can log in directly to Office 365, it just won't have one sign-on authentication.
yeah.
It'll still pass through because it's communicating via the internet. It just, if it goes down is when it all stops. As
But
long
what
as
I'm
it's,
saying is, if you're
it's
working
all
from home,
other-
you're accessing your email. You're not coming in through the office to get to Office 365.
You're authenticating.
but
Yes,
you're
you
going
are.
to
It
the
is authenticating back.
You're going to the you gotta remember, you're going to the authentication platform first at Microsoft Office first. Since you're going there first, it has the information to go back to authenticate against the federated servers.
Are you sure it goes the other way?
Yes.
It doesn't make sense that it would.
It's for
Because
security reasons.
because
Yeah, it's.
that it would
They're
authenticate
not
back to the
holding-
premise before going back to the
Yes,
cloud?
because they're not holding your security information up in the cloud.
That's what they're trying to tell you, that's.
Right, right. I guess what I'm saying though is, from a business continuity perspective, we have a fire, our federated ID server is gone, we cannot access email. Is that right?
Correct.
You can't access anything.
You're getting email, your email's up.
You
You're
can't
receiving
access it.
email, you just can't get to it.
Access.
No, you
Can you
can't.
tell me there's no cloud, there's no OWA?
Because everything authenticates against Active Directory.
That's what you were talking about
OWA
earlier
exists,
about
but
having
OWA would authenticate in the
backup.
same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you would have two
So
federated
then it makes sense
servers.
to host.
So all the business
authentication server
continuity
at a data center.
advantages of Host Exchange are completely out the
Well,
window if you choose the
or
federated
two.
ID
Oh,
solution.
For single sign-on? No, well, yes and no. As far as access is, then yes. As far as it continues to run, like, you're not losing anything.
Right, I'm not losing anything, I just can't
You
work.
can't use it.
Well,
My
that's
business-
only if you need directory sync. If you're willing to have two
My active
authentications,
sync's
you don't
not
have to worry
gonna
about
work.
any of this.
Exactly.
The cheap
It's real
version,
simple.
you don't need the
Then I
federated
wouldn't,
server.
not many people are
Right,
gonna
the
kill.
cheap version is a better business continuity solution than a
Than the
federated. is
federated
what I
server,
heard.
is what I'm hearing.
Guys, most of our customers, like 95%, do not care about signing into two different places.
Well, that was my question before. I understood the single sign-on, and where
Not
single
really.
sign-ons,
How many of our users
a
have more than
benefit.
50 users?
that
How many of our
coexistence
clients?
though. Where is
Ten?
that a benefit? You know,
Let me talk to you about that offline, because that's gonna get.
I'm not trying to
Okay.
throw your meeting off, I just wanted that clarified.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I wasn't talking, I was talking to Patrick. Yeah.
Glad I'm not the only one confused.
I have one other really quick question.
Yeah.
Like, so if it's under the MS Online ID and it needs direct sync, it has to have a single server deployment on site in order to be the Active Directory?
In order to integrate with Active Directory, yes, you would need a second server on site.
But
What
most of
about
your
the-
customers will
Yeah.
not need the Active Directory integration.
What about the domain controllers? Like,
You can't run on a domain controller, it has to be a separate server.
so technically they have to have two servers on site then?
To integrate with Active Directory, yes.
Okay.
But, you know, and that's where Microsoft recommends the 6, but technically, and it's something we might be working on in the next few months, is, 6 servers is Microsoft's minimum recommended for single sign-on. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean 6 servers per client. That could mean 6 servers in our cloud for all of our clients.
They're enabling
They
some
run the whole
functionality,
instances separately.
which would allow us to use shared resources to be able to do this. Right now, it's kind of like all or nothing, so we
When you're
can't do
saying
it.
6 server, it could be 2 ESX hosts with 3 VMs sitting on each one.
Correct.
could be.
And you can use a single ADFS for multiple ADs, correct?
With the changes they're making, yes, we will
today.
be able to do that. By Q1 of next year is when they should be out.
Okay.
Basically, it's for parent and children domains. Right now, it federates the entire organization, whereas later on, we'll be able to choose which one is syncing. And there's your resource requirements. What is synced? I'm not gonna go over this, you can read this. Basically, This is more for the tech guys. It'll actually show you what's synchronized. Scroll through this. Exchange migration. This is good for sales guys to know what's actually going to be migrated. If they have an on-premise Exchange server and they're going to the cloud, what is actually going to be migrated? Here's your list. If it ain't on this list, it's not getting migrated. I made this as complete as I possibly could.
Basically everything except for a few.
Except public folders.
Yes. Well, public folders like dumpster 1.0, like anything pre-2007. I think I've got a slide on it on what's not migrated.
Quick, on the cheap version,
Mm-hmm.
can I view other people's calendars in my organization on that?
Yes, because it's Exchange, so yes. The cutover process, just to outline it, this is a really high-level outline, doesn't get really technical. Basically have to enable Outlook Anywhere on the Exchange server, set up the appropriate mailbox permissions, enter the remote server details into Microsoft Online, provision the mailbox contacts, etc. on Office 365. It does an initial sync, which is time-consuming. The nice thing that it does now is it performs incremental syncs. So whereas it can be, at this point, it can transform to a staged migration, it'll keep the current infrastructure current with the Office 365. Now, of course, there's a delay. I don't remember I was trying to find out what the time was on the incremental syncs. I think once a day?
I think it was 3 hours.
Was it 3 hours?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically it'll sync up all the changes, so if if you get new mail, it'll incrementally sync that up to Office 365. So, right now it's kind of an all or nothing, like we will have to completely resync it ourselves. This will do it automatically. Once that's done, change the MX record, complete the migration, and do the final sync and cleanup. Just a high-level overview of what the process is. What's not migrated in an Exchange cutover is security groups, dynamic distribution list, pre-2010 dumpster items. That's basically your deleted item recovery ability. Send as permissions, and that would be Exchange in a nutshell. Skipping a lot of stuff. I know it's complicated, I know it's hard, but wanted to give you an idea. And John, you can be careful.
I think they've covered this. You get an Outlook license, right?
You want to queue up the
And a monthly fee.
I believe you
Yes.
do on the plans.
However you get the Outlook license, I don't think, is it?
Yes.
20 cents?
22.
Yes.
Yeah, this comes with it.
No options. Only 22.
Lucky you.
Yes. Chillian here.
Okay, if you're familiar with SharePoint Online, it's very similar to actually SharePoint On-Site, SharePoint SBS. All of our customers that currently have SBS have SharePoint, and SharePoint Online is very similar to it. Okay, here's just some of the basic reasons to use SharePoint. This is pretty standard, whether it's online or not. You can easily access documents. We all use it on the portal. Everybody's fairly familiar with how SharePoint works. Currently there are a lot of advanced features that we're not using, but it really depends on the client whether or not to use those features or not. You have blogs, you have wikis, you have a communication room. It's kind of a replacement for an FTP site. A lot of customers use FTP to share files with clients and have clients upload files to their server. Well, SharePoint makes an excellent replacement for that. It's secure, has a nice web-based interface to do that, and that's really one of the best things about SharePoint.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
On this version of SharePoint, do they allow the meta tagging for searching in the database? Or do you still have to have a
Yes.
SQL backend?
No. You do not have access to any SQL backend currently. In a year or so, that's something that's coming.
With Azure.
Yeah, Windows is working on hosted SQL. Of course, one of the biggest advantages to having SharePoint online is faster ROI. You can focus more on developing the interface for the user instead of spending a bunch of time figuring out how to implement a SharePoint form on site. Okay, here's a basic overview of the difference. You still have my sites, team sites, intranet sites, which is pretty much everything we use here currently. Okay, you can customize the site, you can use SharePoint Designer 2010 to completely, put your own graphics in there, configure it however you like. But what you don't have is most of your integration, things like databases, advanced workflows, and a lot of the customization people do with SharePoint as a web platform.
One second, you,
Data cubes?
right. He asked a question about site search, and you just said that slide showed that Office 365 didn't include fast search. What's the difference between,
Fast search.
I mean, if you tell me it's just
rather-
faster, then I'm going to feel kind of foolish.
It's rather complicated, but the basic search feature that we have in our SharePoint that we just got working with SharePoint 2010, where you can search and look through documents, that's going to work with any Word and PDF file for the most part.
And so that type of searching would be included in 365.
Correct.
All right, this
Fast
fast search is something
searching
else.
is advanced features through workflows, databases.
Indexing.
Yeah, advanced indexing.
Okay.
A whole lot of features that are nice to have if you're really leveraging your whole business on SharePoint. So, US Lumber currently is leveraging a large part of their business on SharePoint. This is something that they would miss. Pretty much 99% of the rest of our customers, they wouldn't know the difference.
So what do you do for customers who utilize that and will lose it? I mean, is there anything we can do?
Currently, no.
Just keep them on premise based? Is that right?
Correct.
Next year, they're going to start rolling out hybrid environments.
Okay.
But as of right now, it's kind of either all in with SharePoint anyway.
Mhm.
A lot of the other all the other services, you can do coexistence options. SharePoint's the only one right now that you have to do one or the other.
Okay.
And
But I could do Office 365 for web apps, for Exchange and all that stuff, and I could set up my single sign-on and federated servers and have my SharePoint server still sitting on site.
Correct.
or in the cloud, on-premise doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be premise-based.
Right.
It just means that it is
It's
not
not
part of
365.
365.
Right.
Right.
Yes. Okay, these are all the features currently not available. No mail-enabled lists. An example of that would be how our customers email us at support@infinityit.com. SharePoint has that feature, very much similar to Autotask, but Office 365 SharePoint does not. Okay, 20,000 user object limit, that's not going to be a problem for us unless we find a huge customer.
Does it integrate with InfoPack?
Currently, no. Most of those, if you can't do it in SharePoint Designer, you basically can't do it. So there's Power Pivot and several of the tools that are similar to that Office 365 does not support. Yes. Yep. Actually, that was part of the feature set. I didn't think anybody would ask about it or know what it was, so I didn't throw it in here. I do have a detailed one, though, that is going to be on the portal. That has all 100 feature items that most of them probably won't have any clue what they are. And, just emphasizes the workflow and approval process is missing, site variations for content translation in multiple languages. SharePoint on-site has it to where if you have customers in China, Russia, it will automatically translate it into another language and display it based on their region. Office 365 doesn't have that yet. Most of these features are about a year away. So they will be there, they're just not there yet.
So if they've identified it to say it's not available, then that's something that their expectations are to make it available. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, literally this document that they released had this same title yet, features not available yet.
Okay.
So most of the things that We were told are coming soon or are not available. We didn't get a date on them. So.
We can only have 20,000 users. Try and point that out.
Correct,
I mean,
and that's a performance issue.
I don't think that's a concern for us.
No, I don't think so.
Just in case we land AT&T, you know, we're gonna have a freaking problem.
Currently, their servers can't handle more than 20,000 users on a single site. So, web analytics.
You would just sign Verizon or Office Depot or one of these people that do your job, and then we will deal with it.
That's on tape.
Okay, that's included. 4 major types of sites, which we currently are using in our SharePoint. We're trying to leverage some of them more than others right now. Team sites, that's the normal site when you log into our portal. It has document libraries, contact lists, blogs, and different communication modules that you can add. My sites, that's for your personal documents. Intranet sites are more for announcements. And you get one public-facing website. I'll go into these just a little bit more here. Team sites allow you to store shared documents for a team. Edit review documents. SharePoint 2010, you have the ability to do that live now to where 2 people can open a single document and actually see what each other are editing inside Word or PowerPoint or Excel. And that also integrates with Link. So you can have sharing screen, you can have the same document open, seeing how each other are editing the document.
You can do that now?
And communicate, yes.
Can we do that now?
Well, we don't have a Link server.
Barry got by link server.
So it's a very good feature.
That's Office Communicator.
Yes.
No.
No.
It's the new version of Office Communicator.
No, it's way more.
Well, the video
It's like
conferencing and all
WebEx mixed
that.
with
You can do,
Skype mixed with.
What? Okay, but we get an account with Office 365.
we've got it.
Why don't we set it up?
Well, that's you're
I mean, why don't we set this thing up as
the
last
problem that we have is we have an on-site SharePoint environment,
and we don't want to lose that.
and in order to do Link, we would have to have an on-premise Link. We can integrate that with the cloud.
Okay, so this is an on-premise thing. Is it part of our action pack or whatever?
I have no idea. I haven't seen the new action pack.
They made it.
It probably is. I would
I
assume.
think so. Yeah.
But anyway, team sites are really useful for sharing and collaborating with people remotely. It also has a project management module that will integrate with Microsoft Project, so you can create a project site, keep all the team members updated, they can go in and communicate with their status on things. It's kind of similar to what
Does that
we're
require a
using
project
on
server, or?
Taskforce. No.
Really? Nice, okay.
For some of the more advanced features, it does, but most of it you can just connect Microsoft Project to the SharePoint site. There's tools on the toolbar on the top of the SharePoint site. You connect it to Microsoft Project.
That has to be, I believe that has to be Office 2010, I don't think 2007.
Yes, most of these
Okay.
features we're talking about during this whole presentation, Office 2010. So I believe, if the customers want 2010 and they don't currently have it, I believe it's $25 a month up from the 10
Yeah.
27.
per user.
It's 20.
Yeah, the E3 plan, I think, is 20.
It was $24.95 and $26.95.
24.
For the, yeah.
So and that's obviously going to be the easiest to manage, because then you don't have all those cards that come with the new PCs trying to track licenses. Just everything's right through one subscription fee and managed by Microsoft. My Sites is new to SharePoint 2010 and is included with SharePoint Online. We've seen probably a little bit of My Sites if you logged into it a couple weekends ago. Tyler got that working, and we're working on getting all the information in there. The big thing about My Sites is you can create a personal document repository to where you can access them anywhere. Currently, you can't sync them with My Documents, but you can create a map drive to this SharePoint document folder. You can save in that map drive. You can also default Excel and Word to, whenever they go to File Save, to default to their SharePoint My Site. So that way everything's in SharePoint, in Microsoft's cloud environment. They can access it from anywhere.
So if we save it to those sites, are those files being saved?
Yes, they,
It's like Google Docs, Lori.
Okay.
It's almost exactly what it is. It
Yes.
it just gives you a centralized like web access to your own personal documents. Those can be shared. Like I said, it's almost exactly like Google Docs, like functionality wise.
it integrates really easily with Office though. And, you know, you can click on, I believe in Word and Excel, it has a menu under there where you can say share with. And, you know, you can designate other users to share those documents with, or you can move them over to the team site
Okay.
and you know, have them available. That's another thing with the team site, any of those document libraries, and currently we can do this with ours, you know, you can set those up as map drives. So you can treat it as a normal folder to where you don't have to click the upload button, you know, you can just save to the map drive and it saves it directly into SharePoint.
But I'm just reflecting on, we also are planning on putting in the BI component of SharePoint for our local.
It's already installed, we just have to connect.
Right, so that's another reason why we can't really convert to Office 365, because it doesn't offer that. Because the customer can ask us, like, what are you doing and why? And we're not doing it, this is what we're doing, premise, which is still a viable alternative, and this is why. SharePoint, the business intelligence, and then, what's the other one?
Fast search.
What?
Fast search.
That's right.
Yeah, it's currently not using that, but we want to.
Does the search on the My Sites also connect to our standard SharePoint site? So if I go through the search bar up there, will it search through my personal documents on my sites again?
No, they're two different sites. Team sites and My Sites, they're two completely different modules. So if you search on one, you're searching on one. If you search on the other, you're searching on another.
I'm sure you can do
So
It's the same data.
Real quick, I can see someone using this My Site almost entirely as their file server, like for storage.
yes.
I can see that. My only concern, I think the client's concern is just gonna be like the redundancy, like another, just in case something were to happen on, with Microsoft or something like that. Is there a way to sync that with a local folder or something like that?
Currently, no. That's the problem with all these services currently. Exchange, Linux, SharePoint, if you had, Exchange, the only way to back up Exchange is if you have an on-site Exchange server that you're syncing and you're using the complicated model that we were discussing earlier, because you can't interface any of your own backup stuff with Office 365. Now, they do have redundancy, they do their own backups, they don't talk about it a whole lot, but I know a technician we were talking to at the conference, he needed a SharePoint site recovered that a client accidentally deleted, and he said that Microsoft was able to restore it, but it took about 7 days. So, that's what kind of turnaround time currently we're looking at for restoring stuff that was permanently deleted.
But that was an entire site that went bye-bye.
Correct.
So that's an admin.
What about general backups, file folder backups?
Well, built into SharePoint, you have a 30-day administrator recycle bin.
Okay.
So basically, each user has a recycle bin just like you do on your regular computer. And for 30 days, it's going to stay in both, the administrator and their recycle bin. If they permanently delete it 2 weeks later, you still have 2 weeks to recover it from the administrator recycle bin. After that, you have to put in a ticket with Microsoft and see if they can recover it somehow, and they may or may not be able to.
All right, so basically, you've got a 30-day retention.
Yes.
Maximum.
Okay. What about if we've got customers that have regulatory, archiving and they need
supported
yeah.
yet. Archiving.
Or just don't delete.
Archiving for IAMs and for SharePoint is on the roadmap, but not out.
But hey, they just wouldn't delete.
No, it's not. It's not
Sometimes they
delete.
need like,
Government, it doesn't matter.
accounting firms, they need like January 1, February 1, March, and without
Right,
changing.
they need iterations and all that.
So, that's what they were worried about, is actually how to actually store this month unchanged, this month unchanged, this month unchanged.
Yeah, there are some complicated models of doing it. It's stuff we probably prefer not to do. like you could map any document library to a computer and then tell Acronis to back up the map drive every night. So, you know, that would work,
But
you're
not, so
you know,
that type of archiving and, like mail archiving and all that stuff is not, at least today, in this feature set.
Mail archiving is.
well,
Mail archiving, they have email archiving abilities. It's in it's in the more premium plan.
Oh, that's right.
But
That's an E4.
IM and SharePoint archiving are not out yet,
No,
and they
not
don't
at
have an estimate on when it will be.
Okay.
the Exchange archiving is currently very limited. I think that depends on the forefront, once they get that fully functional, because I think that's where all the archiving functionality is coming from, is forefront, because that's their current archiving product, so.
Like with the EOA, is it possible to get that local as well for a backup? Or is that information you have to rely on Microsoft entirely to?
What do you mean EOA?
The archiving.
Well, you know, if you want to use a typical archiving product that everybody's familiar with and that we know that work and some of our clients use, you have to have a replicated, that only works in Exchange, you have to have a replicated Exchange server, and then you're basically backing up your local replicated Exchange server. So you can't interface any backup software with Office 365.
Okay.
They don't give you access to it. They don't give you access to any of the server backend stuff. Basically, what's in the web interface or what's syncing with your local server is the only stuff you have access to. Okay, I think everybody's pretty familiar with intranet sites. That's basically what our main portal site is. One thing it does give you, which is probably great for the smaller customers, and we're not using all the advanced features, public-facing website. So they give you one free public-facing website. It's not encrypted, but you know, they can put whatever they want on there. It's basically a free hosted website. You can't have separate pages, and there are a few advanced editing options on there. And of course, you put a member logon link, which takes you to log into Office 365 if it's an employee hitting the public-facing website.
Is it safe to say that's basically just a text-based website? You're not going to be able to throw Flash on there or get history in the background or anything
No
like that?
Flash. PHP is coming.
Okay.
So, you know,
And one of the nice things about this is because of the social media, or social integrations, social networking integration of SharePoint, that can be then used on your public-facing site also. Because it's pre-built into SharePoint, and this is accessing this is based off of SharePoint. So you can utilize that for, you know, some of your social networking. You know, your contact us, you can pull from Facebook if you want to. And use that for SEO and increase hits and everything else.
So Terry, is this something we can integrate in our marketing, with our marketing
Already have
side?
Huh? We already have it.
Yeah, we definitely have, what we're looking at doing actually is creating more packages where you can get Office 365 and then for a certain dollar amount we'll build it. The problem is we need a proposal to build it off of, like a business need. The customer says, oh, I want a 5-page website and I want Office 365, then we'll work with Heather and company to build. Actually, we would only need Heather at that point, but we would work with this marketing team to build a template. We want packages associated with that. So if you have an opportunity for Office 365 and a new website, let us know. But I will say that it's, in some ways, very rudimentary compared to what you can do. You can't do a lot of custom development on it. It can't be a normal like SharePoint site with software kind of built into it. It'll be kind of rudimentary compared to what the team can do without it.
Yeah, but I think that's a great stepping stone for us in regards to, if that's all they can afford and that's what they
Yeah.
want, you provide it, and then as they continue to ask for more and more, you say, you know what, we can provide this.
And the hosting's built in. You don't have an additional hosting fee.
The problem is that most of it's user-driven,
Mhm.
template-driven,
Yeah.
so a lot of times they can just click through and set it up themselves. Well, I know they don't, but I'm just saying they can't.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just saying it's a positive from the standpoint that I think that once they have something like that and they try to create it and they generate nothing from it, that'll be our easy way to step in and create that website.
okay, this is the feature that most of our current clients, you know, when I go out to places, they ask me about. FTP servers are always disasters to set up. They're difficult for clients to access. It's just a really clunky way of sharing files. So usually the best alternative to that, especially if they have an FPS server, is using SharePoint. Now with SharePoint Online, there are some limitations. Okay, basically, the only thing they can do is they can view, when it says they can share and collaborate, that's basically talking about blogs, discussion boards. They cannot post or edit files on SharePoint. So you're basically, other than maybe some discussion stuff, you're basically sending files to the client, and you don't have the capability to have the client send files back to you. That's something they haven't really clarified yet, whether or not they're going to add in there. Another option to get around that is to pay for an additional account and use that account, give it to the client. It has the full, if they go with the enterprise plan, it has the full capabilities, and then when that client's done with that account, you reset the password. So that's a way around that. An external user has access rights to only the site collection they are invited to. That sounds like a good thing, but actually it's more of a limitation. The reason is they have access to the entire site collection. You can't say they have access just to this file or another file. So basically, if you give them access to a document library, they have the ability to completely view everything on there. Okay, actually, that basically just goes over what I just said. You also don't have auditing and reporting capabilities, and some of the more basic workflow features that are currently in there, which are not very functional at this moment. You don't have it all. And licensing. If you have P&E suites, that includes 50 external sharing licenses. Now, that's 50 per month, so that's not 50 at the same time like most Microsoft licenses are. Once you've had 50 unique logins, that's it. But you can purchase additional 50 packs. And this is the real kicker here. It's based on Microsoft Online IDs, but service is currently suspended. So all of this currently does not function.
It's not suspended, it's appended. It's totally different.
Way to go, John.
So I want to share a
Sounds like
file.
appended, but not quite.
I want to share a file with a customer
It's
that's 50
appended
megs, I
and
can't mail
it's
it.
appended.
So I use this option, but they have to have Microsoft Office 365 as well to be able to
No.
access it.
They can use Hotmail ID, Microsoft Live ID.
Okay, it said what Office 365 enables company to invite external users outside their company domain, but with Office 365 license.
Yes.
The license they're talking about is the 50 external sharing license.
Okay.
But it's based on Microsoft Online.
So as long as they have a Rocket Mail or Hotmail or
Hotmail.
Microsoft Live account, they can.
Yes, and all we were told at the conference is that due to what technicians and users report, it's been suspended and it will be reactivated by the end of the year. So we're only talking about a couple of months here before it's back online. Okay, here's the
About
storage.
7 minutes for some time left.
For a minute. Make it quick then. Here's your storage. Base storage 10 gigabytes. Additional 500 megabytes per licensed user. So if you have 100, that's 10 gigabytes plus 500 megabytes times 100, so you have 60 gigabytes of total storage on your SharePoint site. That does not include My Site collections. So My Site collections, you have an additional 500 megabytes. And this 60 gigabytes is basically team sites, everything else.
500 megabytes or gigabytes through my site?
Megabytes per user.
Are you able to upgrade that at all, or?
Yes. You can purchase additional storage. They don't really elaborate on that very much, except for the fact that they say that the maximum you can purchase for any SharePoint site is 5 terabytes.
When I asked AppRiver about that a while ago, the AppRiver pricing almost came out to something like $1 a meg. Wasn't cheap.
Look up Meg.
That's actually normal.
$1 a gig.
Okay.
Buck a gig.
Oh,
$1 a gig. But still, It was about, that was the App River site, so Microsoft pricing would be lower than that. But yeah, you can buy additional storage and blocks of like 5 or 10 gigs, but it was, yeah, if somebody wants, 2 terabytes of space, it's gonna cost a bit.
Alright, and that basically sums everything up with SharePoint Online, and this is an important site. Here's the main SharePoint Online marketing site. So everybody in sales, there's a group of about 8 videos on there. They're great to watch. They're only about 1.5 minutes long. They show you all these features that I talked about, how links can integrate, work with your teams, with the Microsoft project. And they may be great videos to send to the clients as well. They're very sales friendly. Here's all the details about SharePoint Online Service Subscription. For the technical people, here's the Administration Resource Center. And this is kind of for everybody, helping how to. Basically shows you how to do all the basic tasks in SharePoint as far as editing them and all the other day-to-day kind of stuff. So, and of course, this whole presentation will be on the portal, so you can pull it up, those sites. Of course, you can always type in SharePoint Online, and it'll take you pretty much straight to there at the top of Google, so, with all those videos.
Yeah, John.
Great, thank you.
So, thank you, we got 2 minutes left. Any questions for them, any quick questions, obviously?
There's another presentation on Microsoft Link if you want to view it later, I guess.
Quick question for you, John. Like John Maluzzi needs a file type storage. And I was talking to him the other day in SharePoint, kind of interested in. But he needs archival of like tax and everything from like 07, 08, 09 stored. They delete the oldest one. Would that be premise-based SharePoint versus online SharePoint to handle the archiving, it seems like?
Well, that type of archiving could just be, I've got a 2007 folder that all my 2007 stuff goes in. I could still put that 2007 folder on a SharePoint site, and it's going to be backed up, and I'm going to have a 30-day recovery point from that, but the fact that the document itself is 5 years old doesn't mean it gets purged.
Yeah, I know, I was trying to use this as a real-world scenario, as in like, would he, in a situation like that, would SharePoint Online be the best for him, or would SharePoint local? Because I got your ticket back, so I'm trying to...
SharePoint's not designed to be an archive grade repository.
Well,
It can be, but it's not.
Well, he's not,
designed
I mean, it's literally just storing, they're just scanning documents.
what do they want to store?
We can talk about that offline.
Yeah, I would just, yeah,
There's plots out
they're scanning on a printer and just dumping it in a
Yeah,
folder.
that probably would not be, I mean,
Good.
SharePoint's
All day long.
been an